poor individual performances starting to cost us? Welcome back to Where the Town Walk with myself, Luke, and today we've got Rich and Ian talking all things Ipswich, including this week's A to Z. Rich, we'll start with the game, won't we? Frustrating game and some real poor performers.
Yeah, I think if you look at the game, if you're watching as a neutral, you probably would enjoy it, Luke, because I thought it was a decent game. I know. Shout out to Borough for their fans for the banner they had. 510 miles on a Friday night. Stop killing our game, it said. Which, yeah, spot on. You know, it's a pain in the backside to travel that distance, like, you know, on a Saturday. But you've obviously had people who obviously had to take days off work, take kids out of school, and it's not ideal. But if you look at the game as a whole, I thought for 30 minutes, Luke, I thought we're pretty comfortable in the game. I didn't think we were in any trouble. And then it literally went mad, didn't it? In that 15 minutes up to half time, we just didn't manage the game. Like you say, there was individual mistakes. But football is a game of small margins. You know, we could be 2 or 3 goals down, but then we could be going in at half time 1-0 with the penalty, which we're probably going to talk about. We missed that. A minute later, we're losing 1-0 and we're going at half time. And then we didn't really recover. I didn't think for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half. I thought we were pretty poor then. Conceded a second goal. Subs came too late for me. Got a goal back. Yeah. Didn't really threaten. And then it summed it up for me when we've got 30 seconds to go, Luke, and we've got a throw in their territory. Darnell Furlong's got a long throw and he proceeds to throw it to Nunes, who passes it back to him. And I'm thinking, just get it in the box. Just put it in there. So it was a frustrating night and another frustrating away performance.
Yeah, I think you're right for a neutral. It was a great game. Like, it's a good advert for the Championship. It was quite end to end, which we haven't really done. You know, I think a big part of our season so far is us trying to be secure, isn't it, and sort of not allowing this. I think Ian Dara O'Shea mentioned it after the match, didn't he? The game was just way too open for our liking. We especially away from home. We don't want that.
Yeah, we're a possession team, but it was evident at times we were kind of throwing caution to the wind at times. Quite often we were pumping that long ball, which we're not known for, and it was almost like we were giving too much respect, and we felt that we weren't really worthy. And towards the end of that first half, when we had every single person in the box, the shape had gone. It was just get in front of that ball. It was like you're defending a 1-0 win in the cup away at Arsenal or something. It really. I mean, it felt like a cup game, and it really shouldn't, because, we got another 45 minutes. Let's just take our time. We know our strengths, play to our strengths, and we didn't play to our strengths at all. And it was frustrating to see Middlesbrough keep going down their left wing and that overlap, and we just did not learn at all throughout that game. I don't know how we didn't get punished more, actually, down that right-hand side.
Yeah, we just got caught short so many times. How many times was it 3v2? It was way too open. And I think like I said, I want to touch on it. We have to see, we have to call it how we see it. I hate saying about players not playing well. I don't like getting on players' back, etc. But we have to, as fans, and this podcast, we have to say it how we see it. And there was just too many individual errors. And you look at Hurst, didn't have a great game, misses the penalty, big error. Kipper Ray scores an own goal. Not sure what he's doing with his feet there. Big error. I think you look at even the likes of Matthew Siwa, who I know we've been chatting about, has actually come on the last few games. I think he was poor. They're starting to cost us, aren't they, Rich? We can't keep having these big errors that are leading to goals or missing penalties, etc. We need to settle.
It was really interesting when I see Kieran's pre-match that he done, saying that they've got a game plan, Luke, for Hayden Hackney. That's what he said. He said it in his press conference. And yet I'm watching that game and he's literally had the freedom of the Riverside. No one got near him. No one made a tackle, and he's a very good player. And you can see why, obviously, Town wanted to get him in the summer, because I thought he was a class apart. I just thought all over the pitch, other than the goalkeeper and probably the captain, I thought most people were probably 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. And you ain't going to get results like that in the Championship. You've got to have 7s and 8s. I thought Leif Davis, Luke, probably had one of his poorest games I've seen him have defensively. Going forward, not too bad. Set pieces, woeful. I mean, summed up with that the free kick in the second half, and he just literally hits it shin high into the wall. And yeah, look, anyone can miss a penalty. You know, I'm not going to come on here and have a go at George Hurst for taking the courage to stand up, but it's coming back to bite him in at that comment at Birmingham.
Why?
You know,
Why did he say that?
Well,
did he say that?
When you are saying it's my bread and butter, you know, you have to nail it. And I didn't think it was a terrible penalty. You know, he's telegraphed his run, but if you're going that side, you've got to whip it right in that side netting by the post. Is it? You either go low along the floor or go high, and he's put it at that height, and it's a good save by Solbrin. You know, he's strong hand, but it's small margins, and in games like this, Luke, you have to take them chances when they come along. And I mean, it's another game where we haven't scored a goal away from home yet from open play. You know, we scored, but it was a set piece. So yeah, there's what coming out of that game. I think there's more questions than answers with across the team, not just your striker. I think midfield, I thought they were poor. I know I might get a bit of stick. I'm not Jens Kaju's biggest fan, Luke. I think in this division, I think he's a massive luxury. I don't think he's got the legs. He's blowing out of his backside after 30 minutes. And I think when I look at Hackney, he can take the ball under pressure. He can break the lines. You know, he has a good shot on him. When I look at Jens Kajust, he does that good turn in the middle of the pitch. But other than that, goals, assists, defensively, I think he's really, really poor. And I thought midfield-wise, I put a tweet out in the week. I thought it was going to be Aidan Morris playing in there, but he'd obviously been away with the States and he didn't get back. So Alan Brown played in there. Look, he's played at Preston. He knows the league. And I thought them two just literally controlled the midfield. I still think, Luke, in certain games, I think we need another midfielder in there to sort of, especially on the road sometimes. And I think sometimes, it's a little bit of arrogance on our part, thinking we've got good players. We'll just turn up at these teams. It's like Ian was saying there a little bit earlier. I mean, if you listen to Paul Merson's comments about, it was like we're in extra time in a cup tie. We're 0-0 in the first half. We're literally. I stood there thinking, what are we doing here? I couldn't fathom out what we're doing, and that comes to me leadership. You know, I think sometimes as your captain, you've got to pull people into position and say what's going on. But we got away with it, didn't we, in that first half? And I'd have been quite happy going in at 0-0, and then we missed the penalty. It was just a bit of a mess that last 15 minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree. A few things I want to touch on, which you mentioned really, really well. I think I am a Kajus fan. I'm not going to pretend I'm not, but I think he's very suited to certain games. I think going away to Borough, where we know the power and the energy of Hayden Hackney, I don't think he was personally suited to that for that particular game. I think, you know, when you're at home and you're going to have, you know, possession and we're going to control the ball and he can get on his turn and do all that sort of stuff. Brilliant. But yeah, I agree. I think it really showed the midfield against Borough, because it was two different types of midfield. You had the real energy box to box with Borough, and we had quite a, you know, Matthew Seaver and Costa, they're not the most, I don't know, they're not the most movable, they're not the most energetic, they're not going to rebounce around the pitch too much. So Matthew Seaver, we were over the
But I've heard people, Luke, saying, I've heard people saying we've got the best midfield in the league.
Yeah,
we haven't.
Yeah, no, we haven't. And again, it depends for certain games. But I think that game showed that we don't, because we clearly will run over the park. Where I would have liked to have seen Nunes. I mean, even Taylor has a little. He's not obviously the most technical player, but he's got that energy, hasn't he? He's got that sort of tenacity, and yeah, Kosa doesn't really have that. So I think he's certain games, and I like your point where you said even having 3 in there. I mean, I think I want to talk about the number 10 role in a second, because I feel like both Schmodix and Akpom just haven't clicked in that area. And Schmodix, he was lost against Borough, and I think he's been lost in a few times. So can we not have that actual number 10 and maybe play with 3 in midfield and try and get control of the game there? I think that may be an option. What do you think, Ian? Do you think it was clear to see that our midfield is just getting run over?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like he used it, but you're right. He gets away with his loss of possession at times when Matasiwa or whoever else around him are making their passes. But on Friday night, the amount of players who were missing passes was just.
I think we might have lost Ian for a bit. We'll chuck it to you, Rich. What would you like to see? Would you have started a Nunes and a Taylor over Karius, as you mentioned?
Look, that's a big call. Going off, obviously. Look, I get that sometimes you have to pick a certain team for a certain game. I know a lot of people will say, "Well, just play the same team because you won the last game," and I do take that on board. But I think sometimes you do have to look at the opposition and see what their strengths and weaknesses. I totally agree with you. The 10 for me, Luke, isn't working. It's not working in this team. You're not getting anything out of it. You're not getting goals. Look, Smodics is unlucky with a header that gets killed off the line. I see a stat today about Akpom when he came on. I think he was on for 28 minutes. He touched the ball 3 times. And I mean, but they're not. My number 10, as I see it, is someone he'll get on the ball. He can pick them passes. We had one. We sent him on loan to Portsmouth. It's baffling.
Yeah.
Sorry, we lost you for a second, mate.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say the same thing. I mean, he's sticking to this 4-2-3-1. He got plenty of opportunities, plenty of people in the squad that allows him to go to a 4-3-2-1. Yeah, so more like 4-3-3, but with 2 people playing off George Hurst. And it's, like I said, Karius can get away with these pirouettes and some of the drop passes when players around him are making theirs. But on Friday night, we had a number of players who would win possession back, give it straight away again. And yeah, it doesn't maybe have that strength that maybe if Nunez just started would have had. But I do think that what they really needed was numbers in the midfield. So we could have outnumbered the midfield from kickoff by just bringing the bodies into that position. Because like you said, Sammy Smodic playing up in that number 10 role wasn't really connecting with Hurst. And when we did push the long ball, which you might think we'd be going to Hurst as the target man in the middle of the park, they were diagonal long balls, and we were hoping that Davis would run onto them. We didn't see the same pass going across to maybe Egley running down the right wing. They were always aimed for Davis running onto it. And it was frustrating to see that where, we were in a position where it didn't look like Middlesbrough really were threatening us. We could always see, I think, that it was going to be a mistake from us that was going to lead to things. And ultimately, let's say, going into the halftime momentum, 1-0 down, almost kind of killed us at that point then. And we really needed to come out in that first 20 minutes of the second half with a change of game plan. And I didn't see it. And it just meant it was going to be more of the same. Yeah. And I mean, Hayden Hackney, he built into that game. The first 15 minutes, he didn't really stand out, but he started to get a friend of mine who's a Middlesbrough fan. He goes, "Oh, that Hayden Hackney's having a terrible game." 2 minutes later, they score, and he's like, "Oh, okay." So, it was a frustrating game where players weren't picking up their assignments correctly.
Yeah, I agree as well what you said. Like we needed changes a little bit early. I think you also mentioned it as well, Rich. My old man messaged me at half time going, "Substitute needed for da-da-da." And I was like, we've got more chance of winning the lottery than McKenna making a substitution at half time. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't going to happen, but something needed to change, another body in that midfield, etc. And just going back to what I was going to say about Smodics, I feel like he is more suited to play in a team that counter attack, because he likes getting, he likes the running into spaces and the running behind, where we need a number 10 like Chappers, who can connect the play and get in them pockets and stuff like that, and has a real good range of passing. Where Smodics, he's tenacity. He'll go in behind, etc. But he's not someone who's going to link the play too much. So it's something that I think we need to sort of look at going forward. Something I want to also talk about is the away form compared to the home form. What do we need to set up differently, Rich, away from home compared to being at Portman Road?
Well, possibly, but it's in none of them games, Luke, have we got the first goal. If we can get the first goal in these games away from home, it's a totally different game. That game the other night, if we're going in at 1-0 at half time there, I'm sure we come away with something from that game. But we do have spells where we look on top. Like we go to Bristol City away, we were on top in that game in the first 20 minutes. We give a corner away, first time they've gone near their goal, then we're 1-0 down. And then the other night, we're comfortable for 30 minutes. And then I think it's Kipre gives the ball away for that double chance they had. And then we never really recovered from that. And that has to fall on the players sometimes. You're in the game and you have to take it upon yourself and responsibility. And I think you've got to stick together as a team. I still think at the minute, Luke, we're not a team. We are a team of individuals. You know, we've got some very good individuals. But when the going gets tough on these away games, you've just got to dig in sometimes and just get through to half time. And I think sometimes, look, I know we're favourites for the league, and when we go into these places, we want to set up and we want to attack. But I think sometimes maybe just sit in the game. You know, make the opposition maybe make the first move. You know, and then if they pull someone out of position, we can counter that. But it is worrying. It is worrying when we say, look, it's 4 games, but it's really 5, isn't it? If you look at the Blackburn game as well, because that wasn't a great performance. And look, 2 home games this week. If we can win these, that puts us in a lot better position. But you're not getting in the top 2 if you are not winning games away from home. At the minute, we'll probably just about, we'll get into the playoffs with the form we're at the minute, and that's at Portman Road, isn't it? But we're normally quite strong away under McKenna. We have been in the Championship last time. Did we win? We must have won probably double figures games, I would have thought. And at the minute, it's a struggle. And it's until you get that monkey off your back, when we go to QPR in a couple of weeks' time, you know, we'll be under a bit of pressure there because everyone will be looking and thinking, oh, I wonder what Ipswich will do today. You know, still not 1 away from home. And if we don't get a result there, it becomes a bit mental then. And you've got to just get that monkey off your back. If we get that first away win, I think we'll be okay. But the longer it goes on, the harder it's going to get.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think, I get, you know, we have this thing where we want to be the best team in the league. We want to go play our football no matter where we go. But I would agree with that if we were losing games 3-2, 4-3, but we're scoring, it's fine, and it's just we're getting on the wrong side of stuff. But I saw a stat the other day, last night, that I think we are, if the lowest or one of the lowest for shots on target throughout all our away games. So it shows that we are just not creating chances. We're not even getting, you know, it's not like we're even taking shots and it's just not going in. So I think we do need to have a little bit of a different sort of style going away from home, which could suit us because as I just mentioned, Smodics likes to get in behind. Let's say we went to Borough and we played a little bit deeper and they came on to us and we were the ones trying to hit them on the counter-attack. It would have been maybe been a different story. But yeah, I think the other thing that is playing on my mind a little bit, Ian, is us dropping points quite regularly. The gap's getting bigger now, isn't it? Between Borough and Coventry, they're starting to sort of come away a little bit. Is that worrying for you, Ian?
Yeah, we were lucky, I think, earlier this year that when we weren't picking up the points, the teams around us were all drawing, and I was like, "This is great. Everybody's drawing. We're going to get away with this." But you're right. We all know the Championship: 3 wins on the bounce, and suddenly you're up there in the playoffs. Or 3 wins on the bounce, suddenly you're top of the table. I mean, Stoke just dropped off, but they got a good win at the weekend, so they're going to be back in there as well. Coventry, some people say they haven't really been tested. Well, they'll get an opportunity twice in December with us, so that's going to be interesting. That it's a crazy amount of games. 1 game every 3 days. We play Coventry twice, and that's really if we've got problems in the system, we need to get them out now through November, so that come December we can smash that program because we've got such a good level of depth that we shouldn't suffer like maybe some of the other clubs. You know, they've got depth, but maybe not of the quality of their starting 11. That's where we should really hopefully see a difference. Yeah, but when you want to bring a player on to turn things around, when you need that 3 points, you know, introduce Chaplin. Well, at the moment, I really see him coming back in January if we don't turn this around, because the options we have now are Akpom and Smodic, and I really do think that Connor Chaplin could do a job as well as them two, if not better. But yeah, we need to get those the away wins going. Like you said, like Rick said, we've got Charlton and West Brom coming up. That's a great opportunity for 6 points. You know, West Brom will not be an easy win. I think Charlton have got their tails up as well. I think they're pushing into the top half of the table. Yeah, they'll bring a lot of fans as well. Yeah, it's a 1 hour journey up the A12. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we do to change things on Tuesday night.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's get into it. So we've got Charlton at home and West Brom at home in a double game week this week. I want your score predictions, guys. So, Rich, we'll go with you for. We'll start with Charlton. What is your score prediction for Charlton? We need to try and get 3 points, don't we? Charlton, are an informed team. I think they're ninth themselves, so it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, they're doing well under Nathan Jones. I mean, Nathan Jones is a bit of a Marmite character, isn't he? I think if he's your manager, Luke, I think you probably love him. He's a bit of he's one of those, isn't he? You see him praying it was the playoffs last year when he on the touchline. He loves it for the cameras, I think. But you can't knock him with the job he's done. He's got them back into the Championship, and they've started really well. Your team coming up from League One, you've got to hit the ground running. And you never know what happens. If they can build their momentum, I think the league is pretty open. If I look across the league, I don't think it's a great division, Luke. I don't think there's that much quality. I wasn't that impressed with Borough the other night. It was a lot of it was down to us. And it normally is it normally is when we have a bad result. It's normally down to our own mistakes because we seem somewhere along the line we'll make a mistake and we concede a goal. I mean, it's 9 games now, 1 clean sheet. That's another worrying sort of thing because we need to stop the ball going in the net. I think there'll probably be some changes Tuesday night. I think Greaves probably comes back in, Luke. I think he'll come back in. Nunes definitely starts. Azon up front might get a run. And I think Jack Clark's got to come in somewhere. I think he's in good form. It's just where you fit him in, isn't it? Because obviously Philogene, didn't have the best game the other night, but at Portman Road, he's a different animal. It has to be a win Tuesday night, and it has to be a win Saturday. You have to take 2 points because you're putting pressure on yourselves, aren't you? If you're not performing away from home, you have to win these home games because otherwise that gap's going to become bigger. Tuesday night, I think we might keep a clean sheet. I'll go 2-0.
2-0. Like it. Ian, predictions? Charlton at home, what are we thinking?
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm looking at a 2-0 win. We need to be I think it'll be 2 goals in the first half. Second half, we'll see changes again and we're going to be a bit flat and we'll be a bit disappointed that we didn't build on that. But for me, the big thing is, who's going to be coming out as that front striker? Is it going to be Hurst or is it going to be Ivan Azon? And I'd like to see Azon come on. He offered something slightly different, but we've got to be able to feed him the ball. And that.
Whilst Ian's having technical issues, we'll chuck it to you, Rich. West Brom at home, prediction?
Where are they? They're in the top 6, aren't they, West Brom? Yeah. I've seen them a couple of times. They don't really impress me, Luke. But if it's sometimes in this league, you don't have to play well. It's all about grinding them results out. I know as a fan, you want to go to a game, you want to be entertained. But if we don't play that well this week, yet we pick up 6 points, I think everyone's going to be happy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think that's the harder game out of the 2. Obviously, it's a little bit of a West Brom reunion because we've got nearly their whole back 4 and goalkeeper, haven't we? So it'll be interesting to see what we do because if we get a result in the week and we've made some changes, does Kieran change back? Because like he normally does, normally when there's a 3-game week, like when we went to Bristol City, he made 6 changes. And I think that was too many, Luke. I don't think you can make that many changes. We want to get you want to get your spine of your team, and then like if you make some changes around that. But obviously, Matasiwa, he's suspended, isn't he? He's got his 5th booking, so he's obviously going to miss Tuesday, but he'll come back in. I'd thought at the weekend. West Brom 3-1 Town.
3-1. Sorry, Ian. We also
it's fine. So, everybody dialing in to watch us. Yeah.
What about 2-0 Charlton? What about West Brom, mate? What are you thinking about that one?
Yeah, West Brom, closer game. I think West Brom, again, out of the 2 teams we're going to face this week, are probably the better team. Sorry about that, Charlton fans. So, again, I'm probably looking at, hopefully, 2-1. But, yeah, West Brom, they're a strange team. They're like us. They'll turn up on a day really strong, and then other days they're just not the same team that you see the week before. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with Matasiwa not playing on the Tuesday, whether that builds a different formation, a different strength in the partnerships. And like Rich said, are we going to be resting players on Tuesday through necessity, or are we going to be changing players due to bad performance against Middlesbrough? And it's going to be interesting because if you change a player because of a bad performance, you then got to keep him in for Saturday as well. If he says, no, this is a rotation because of squads, then you're probably going to see the same team Friday night playing on Saturday as well. But again, 3 players maximum. Don't be changing more than 3 or 4 players. It really is quite upsetting. And you need to get that what's on paper is his starting 11. They need to be getting wins, so they get this chemistry and the momentum and the enthusiasm behind it. Otherwise, everyone's heads start dropping all over the place, and the guys who aren't getting match time are going to start questioning. Well, come on, I'm much better than that person. We're not winning with them. Why not put me on? Jack Taylor just signed a new contract, so you might think it is quite happy. And I know there's talk about Kamara, ex-Leeds player, currently at Rennes, has been. I've heard his name mentioned in a couple of conversations I've had recently. So I don't know where we put the extra midfielders in January, but yeah, I think 2-1 against West Brom as well. So 2-2-1s, 4-2 over the 2 days. I'd be happy with 6 points.
Yeah, 6 points from the 2 games would be a good return. Right, we are now going on to the A to Z for this week. So we're on to the letter C. Rich, we'll start with you, please, mate. Who is your letter C for Town?
Well, there was a lot of C's. I was looking at C's who played for Town. Now, this guy, he didn't really do a lot. You know, he came in 2015 when we were pushing towards the playoffs. But one goal he scored, I remember. And I remember being in that away end at Vicarage Road that day. We played Watford and they were top of the league. And we were up against it. It was a typical Mick away performance, you know, digging in, parking the bus a little bit. And then we nicked him on the break. Freddie Sears with a through ball. And there he was, the bald eagle, they used to call him, Luke. Richard Chaplow. He buried it. And we went absolutely leery. It was inflatable. I think it was the first inflatable day they'd done for an away day. Yeah, it was great. I think just over 2,000. I mean, nothing better than going away and nicking a injury time winner. It was absolute magic, that was. And I remember Mick on the touchline with TC giving it the big one when we scored. That was a great day. Richard Chaplow.
Did you bring your inflatable? What was your inflatable choice?
I didn't have inflatables. My kids got hold of some inflatables, but I can't really. This is PG. I can't tell you what they had.
Ian, what about you, mate? What's your letter C for Town this week?
Again, I look at the number 9 shirt. As a schoolboy, you all want to wear the number 9 shirt, and there's been some really good number 9s at Ipswich, and probably one of my all-time favourite players is Pablo Cunyago. 62 goals over 241 games, I think, something like that. One of probably, I still do not know how he never made a full appearance for the full Spanish team. You know, he successful at under 21 levels and below, but never made it to the team. And he was a real kind of hero at Portman Road. Obviously, we know about the problems he had with Roy Keane. I felt sorry for him on the back of that. But, you know, he'll always be a standout player for me. And I sometimes see glimpses of him in Azonio. That's why I'd love to see him start against Charlton, because it'd be like Cunyago kind of revisited. So, yeah, Pablo Cunyago for me. Like it.
And, yeah, going to what you're saying about he didn't get on with Roy Keane. I don't think anyone did they? So I think he's not alone in that.
Yeah.
Right, finishing with tweet of the week. So tweet of the week this week is from an Ipswich fan, and he says, "Please don't mess around with our badge." And it is in light of, I think Middlesbrough are the latest team that are looking to modernise their crest and their badge. And there's been obviously a lot of teams that are doing this. What do you guys think? I mean, I get it for like the away kit, the third kit, change it up a little bit. Obviously, we've got the horses for the crest for the third kit, but we might be biased here, but I think our crest, our badge, is one of the most significant ones. Like, it's most recognisable ones in the whole English football. What do you think, Rich? Would you like them to sort of mess around with the badge, or it's look at it, beautiful on your chest?
I like that it's a little bit different on the away shirt with just the Suffolk punch, Luke. But I wouldn't like that to be like going forward. It's obvious why these teams do it, you know. But I prefer when we had the old badge. Ian will probably back me up with the yellow.
The yellow,
I prefer that. That's on some of the obviously stuff they sell in the shop. But just if it's not broken, don't change it. There's no need to change it. And I think if they did mess around with it, I think you'd probably see through social media and bits and pieces, Luke. I don't think the Town fans would be happy with it. I don't mind Middlesbrough one, if I'm honest. It's quite clean. But no, just leave our badge how it is.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually more on I prefer the red and blue badge compared to the other one. Might be a different thing for me, but yeah, that was the badge that I like. The yellow one reminds me too much of the scum, so I don't really want to think about them too much. What about you? What do you think, Ian? This the badge is the badge, isn't it? It holds so much heritage.
Yeah, I mean, this obviously is the revamped badge, from the 1971 or whatever it was, I think. But so for us, this is a modern badge. And if I look at the clubs like Barnsley and people who have the old-fashioned crest, and Burnley, I don't think I'd want one of those old crests, but they have so much history, and those clubs have yet got to go through the change. Yeah, the Middlesbrough change was purely the change back to the original formation date, wasn't it, from 1986 back to 1886. We have got our 150th anniversary coming up in a few years, so it'll be interesting to see if they want to make a subtle change to the badge there. But it is, I think, the success in the Ipswich badge is it is very simple. And it is distinctive. You see it straight away and you go, I know that's Ipswich. And I think the red came in about the time then we were using the punch kit, wasn't it? Where we had lots of red suddenly appeared in the strip, like little red pinstripes and stuff. I can't see it changing. I thought it was a brave decision to make the third kit with a punch on its own, Suffolk punch, but that worked. But again, we know how often the third kits come out. They're not really a proper kit, are they? They're just a kind of a gizzard. I mean, don't change what's not broken. I mean, like I say, I've got one here with the gold subdued ones, and we've seen the black subdued ones. That's all it needs to do. Just don't lose your identity. Yeah,
100%. I agree. Thank you again, guys, for a great conversation. Fingers crossed we're talking this time next week, and we've got 6 points from the 2 games. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening at home. Please like and subscribe, and please get involved in your comments below. Predictions for the 2 games, and your letter C for Ipswich for this week.